Ignore the mess, but this is the start of a really interesting and fun project. Hi, I'm Arpita and welcome to Yarn Ranger. This is a project vlog of me knitting the Cloud Tee by PetiteKnit. I'm using their Mercerized cotton 5 by 2 in the color garnet. It's close to a fingering weight yarn and each cone weighs 200 grams. I have two cones of this because I'm a chronic underbuyer of yarn and I did not want to fall short this time, especially since I'm going to be on a 15 to 20 day long work trip. I think this will take up about 200 to 300 grams of yarn, and the Cloud Tee will be the only project I'm carrying with me. So I expect some good progress during this time. I can't knit on the plane because I have metal needles for this one, so they'll be going in my chuck-in luggage. I will be carrying some things in this pouch, my new 3mm Knit Pro needles, carbon minis, and I'm very excited to use this because I haven't used uh, the mini needles before, nor have I used the carbon needles, and I've heard so much good things about this. I'll also be carrying my regular longer needles just in case. I have some notions in this tiny Nivea box as spare keys for my backpack, connectors, stitch markers, and darning needles. Other things in the pouch include a crochet hook, scissors, and an extra hair tie because you can never have enough of them. So I cast down this project while on a car ride from the airport to my field site, which is about 6 hours. It's just a 200-kilometer road, but the roads are really bad, and this is quite in the fringes of the forest, so it's not as an easy thing to ride over here. So the connectivity is an issue, but I managed to cast it on and just do some basic things. More on the pattern. So I bought the pattern for Cloud Blouse, which I'm knitting for myself. This tee was reverse engineered based on the gauge swatch I made during the ride over here. I love working with this yarn because of how smooth it is compared to most cotton yarns I've used before. I have used this yarn in a natural dye, I think honey mustard, for my staple tee by New Wave Knitting, and I've enjoyed both knitting and wearing it out. It's wonderful for the Indian weather in both summers and monsoons. I've managed to do about 10 inches of the back yoke as per the pattern recommendation for the size. Well, more more as per the gauge recommendation than the size, because if I were to knit a medium with this yarn, I'd have to do about, I think, 8 or 9 inches. I stuck to 10 because there were some gauge issues and I did the math to fit the right size. At this point, knitting on 3 millimeters feels like a pain, but it is not. It's all worth the effort when you look at the flow. It feels really nice and smooth, really pretty. I have cut off the extra yarn, made a small bunch here, and tied it with some extra knots so that I can use that later. Also, something I started doing with my projects is to tie the extra yarn which are together. So this kind of helps me not mistake it with the other yarn, my working yarn, and also to just not forget about this and cut it off or leave it in the wrong place. So I have finished my left shoulder. I think I could have started the right shoulder, but I just didn't want to. So that's done, and next up is the right shoulder, and then I join the two. This is my progress as of day 13, which was yesterday. So yesterday I managed to knit until this part, To be honest, I think another inch of knitting done, but then I realized I randomly created an eyelet in this region and it was uh, worth it to think back and fix it. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but a really exciting thing about the project for me is that there are no underarm stitches to be added when you're joining the round. So it'll in this section. And while I am currently knitting a cumulus blouse for myself, I did end up having to add a few stitches in the underarm region because of the gauge math. But otherwise, I'm really excited to see if not adding these stitches in the underarm creates a more tailored fit, or if it avoids any extra cinching up of the fabric or ruffling up of the fabric in this region.
Those were the updates from my fieldwork days. I managed to join in the round before I left the field. I had knit 3 more inches than what I have on right now, but I had to unravel it. The pattern asks you to switch to larger needles after you join in the round, so I naturally switched to 3.5 mm needles, but I did not like the look of it. So I'm knitting it all over again with the 3 mm ends. However, this made me realize that it would be a good look to have the sleeves in 3.5 mm needles, so it's not a wasteful experience in the end. Once I knit up to the mid bust area, I tried it on and then began to work on the sleeves. I modified the decreases for a better fitting short sleeves. What I did was I picked up the stitches as per the pattern and made the first increase after the 16th row. Then I knit in the round until row 35 and started the ribbing. The finishing or ribbing area is an interesting design element and something that lured me into knitting this pattern in the first place. It has a 1 by 1 ribbing followed by a few knit rows. So it essentially creates a rolled over edge after the ribbing. So you have both the casual rolled over edge and a nice ribbing that finishes and gives it some more interesting elements. I've been working on this project while I listen to lectures, and I love how knitting stockinette in the round helps me stay focused.
I'm not sure how clear this video is, but I finished two of the sleeves, sleeve 1 and sleeve 2, and bound off with the EZ sewn bind off. I was going to do the regular bind off. I actually did it for the neckline, but then I realized it was a little too stiff for my liking, and my head was also not going through the neck hole, so I decided not to do that. I removed the neckline work and decided to do that later on and finish the sleeves. This is how much I have so far. So it's been a few days since the last update, and I've managed to do 19 or 19 and a half inches on the body. I think I need to knit an inch or so more before I start doing the ribbing and then finally do the neckline. I'm very close to finishing this, but I have a lot of finishing anxiety with this piece. I think it's also because this has been one of the consecutive projects I've been doing on 3 millimeters or sub 3 millimeters yarn. It could just be that too much fingering weight or lace weight knitting has been in my recent past. But fear not, I persevered through and managed to finish knitting the body, and this is me doing the sewn bind off for the body. I'm sorry in advance for the shaky camera work, but this is the cloud tea before it was blocked. My aunt was kind enough to model it for me, and I really like how it looks on her. And here are two pictures of me wearing the top before I blocked it. I have a feeling that this project vlog as a whole may be a little too abrupt or all over the place. This was my first time doing a voiceover and putting together clips for a project vlog. But I do hope that you had a decent time coming along this journey with me. In the meantime, have fun crafting and I'll see you around. Bye!